Hello and thank you for tuning in to VTV News, brought to you live from Hanoi. My name is Ling Huang, and now let's get you caught up on our headlines. The 24th ASEAN Summit opens in Myanmar. Prime Minister calls for global opposition to China's violations of Vietnam's sovereignty. The 24th ASEAN Summit opened in Myanmar's capital, Nay Pyi Taw, on Sunday. Vietnamese Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng and senior leaders of other ASEAN countries attended the event. In his opening speech, Myanmar President Thein Sein, who is also chairman of the 2014 ASEAN Summit, emphasized that solidarity and consensus are key to helping member states successfully build an ASEAN community of peace and prosperity by 2015. During the summit sessions, Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng and leaders of other ASEAN countries discussed the pacing for building the ASEAN community by 2015 and its development orientation afterwards, as well as global and regional matters of mutual concern. Delegates also discussed plans for the expansion of foreign relations and ASEAN's central role in the structure of the region. Leaders of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, have adopted the Nay Pyi Taw Declaration immediately following the 24th ASEAN Summit on Sunday. The declaration identified broad areas on how the leaders are committed to further enhancing cooperation among the 10 member nations and how to better promote economic development. It also includes call for all parties to exercise self-restraint and the use of non-violent means to handle competitions in the EC. The leaders have all agreed to refrain from taking actions that would further escalate tension. They aim to work towards an early conclusion of the Code of Conduct in the EC. And on the sidelines of the 24th ASEAN Summit on Saturday in Nay Pyi Taw, Myanmar, Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng met with Myanmar's President Thein Sein and Indonesian President Susilo Yudhoyono.
At talks between Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng and Myanmar President Thein Sein, both sides agreed to enhance the exchange of delegations and high-level contacts with an aim to create favorable conditions for Vietnamese businesses to invest in Myanmar, especially in the fields of oil and gas, banking and tourism. They agreed to coordinate with other ASEAN member states to strengthen solidarity and ASEAN community building by 2015. Finally, they also shared a common voice over regional and international issues, including the current tensions in the EC.
In a meeting between Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng and the Indonesian President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, the two leaders agreed to effectively realize the joint action plan for the 2014-2018 period. They also discussed convening the second meeting of the Joint Committee on Bilateral Cooperation this year, as well as making preparations for the 60th anniversary of diplomatic ties in 2015. With regard to the recent developments in the EC, Indonesian President affirmed that Indonesia is willing to coordinate with Vietnam and relevant parties to find suitable solutions to this issue.
Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng called upon ASEAN countries, other global countries, individuals and international organizations to continue expressing their opposition to China's violations of Vietnam's national sovereignty and to support Vietnam's legitimate request. The Vietnamese Prime Minister made the remark on Saturday at the 24th ASEAN Summit in Nay Pyi Taw, Myanmar.
Addressing ASEAN leaders at their annual summit in Myanmar on Saturday, Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng briefed the ASEAN leaders on the recent tensions in the EC, saying China has deployed more than 80 vessels, including military ships and aircraft to escort the drilling rig. He noted by deploying its oil rig within Vietnam's territorial waters, China also seriously violates the 2002 Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the EC, or DOC, to which China was a signatory.
Việt Nam đã hết sức kiềm chế
Vietnam has exercised extreme self-restraint, expressed goodwill, and used every channel of dialogue and contact with all levels of China's government. We have objected to their actions and demanded that China immediately withdraw the oil rig as well as armed and military vessels from Vietnam Sea. However, China has not met the legitimate requirements of Vietnam. China has even slandered and imputed the blame to Vietnam while continuing to enhance violations in an increasingly dangerous and serious manner.
Prime Minister Dũng confirmed that Vietnam wants to work closely with China to settle disputes peacefully, based on international law, equality, and mutual respect in the interest of the two peoples, and for peace and stability in the region and the world at large. However, Vietnam totally opposes violations and is determined to protect its national sovereignty and legitimate interests in accordance with international law.
For this especially serious situation, Vietnam asked ASEAN to strengthen the solidarity and strongly reaffirm the principles as stipulated in the ASEAN 6-point principles on the EC, demand China comply with international law, the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, especially respect for the exclusive economic zone and continental shelf of the coastal countries, and seriously and fully realize the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the EC, DOC, and practically work with ASEAN on the Code of Conduct or COC talks.
DOC và cùng ASEAN thương lượng thực chất về bộ quy tắc ứng xử COC.
The Prime Minister also proposed ASEAN include the above issue in the summit's joint statement and the chairman's statement. Leaders of other ASEAN countries expressed their deep concern about recent tensions in the EC, which they said are threatening regional peace, stability, security, and maritime safety.
The Vietnam Peace Committee sent a message to the Chinese Association for Peace and Disarmament on May 10th, opposing China's recent acts which have violated Vietnam's sovereignty in the EC. In its message, the Vietnam Peace Committee proposed that the Chinese Association for Peace and Disarmament take positive measures conducive to preserving the friendship and cooperation between the people of Vietnam and China. And in related news, on Sunday, the Vietnam Peace and Development Foundation released a statement in Hanoi protesting against China's illegal deployment of an oil rig in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. The Vietnam Bar Federation, or VBF, held an extraordinary meeting on May 11th opposing China's actions in the EC. In their statement, the VBF said that Vietnam's sovereignty and jurisdiction rights had been violated by China positioning an oil rig on Vietnam's continental shelf and exclusive economic zone.
At the meeting, the Standing Committee of the Vietnam Bar Federation confirmed that the illicit deployment of oil rig Hải Dương 981 within Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf is the latest in China's continuing illegal actions in the area. In 1974, China used armed forces to occupy the Paracel Islands, and in 1988 they took over Johnson Reef, or Gagma Reef, and other reefs in the Spratly Islands. And in 2009, they imposed a fishing ban around the Paracel Islands. As recently as 2011, they cut seismic cables in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone, and in 2012, China announced their bid for oil and gas exploration on Vietnam's continental shelf.
Vietnam Bar Federation strongly condemns China for its violation of Vietnam's sovereignty, territorial integrity, sovereign rights, and jurisdiction in the Paracel and Spratly Islands. Also, we condemn China's violation of Vietnam's sovereignty over its continental shelf and exclusive economic zone in the EC. The Chinese government must immediately end all its illegal actions and withdraw the oil rig Hải Dương 981, as well as the military and civilian ships escorting it from Vietnam's exclusive economic zone in the EC.
The Vietnam Bar Federation offered to consult with the government to advise on their legal standing and how to file recourse to defend its sovereign rights in the EC. Simultaneously, VBF also urged international lawyers, academics, and researchers on projects related to the EC to condemn the Chinese government for its violation. They also called on Chinese people, lawyers, as well as peace-loving citizens around the world to support Vietnam in defending its sovereignty and territorial integrity.
And in recent days, international commentators have voiced their concern over developments in the EC between Vietnam and China. VTV's correspondent in Tokyo had an exclusive interview with Mr. Shin Nimura from Japanese broadcaster NHK.
Mr. Shinimura, thank you for joining our interview. My first question is, what do you think about recent actions by China in the EC?
In my opinion, this is a very dangerous act. The Japanese government shares this opinion. It considers such a one-sided action in this part of the ocean as something that will lead to escalating tensions in the region. I also notice that not only Vietnam but many other countries also have common views on safety at sea and regard any country's unilateral actions as extremely dangerous.
So what do you think China's intention is, and what are they going to do next?
Firstly, I think they are targeting the energy resources in these waters. Secondly, I think they want to expand their territorial waters, which is why other countries in the world are criticizing China. In my opinion, they do not intend to go to war with other countries, but since they consider the EC theirs, they will act accordingly regardless of other countries' opinion.
What do you think Vietnam should do to oppose this action of China?
I think it is important that Vietnam, as well as other ASEAN nations, unite and take action to oppose China based on the law. They should also promptly set the code of conduct for China to bring peace to the EC as soon as possible. In addition, Vietnam should link up with both Japan and the US to resolve this issue with China.
Thank you very much.
VTV News will now continue with the weather updates. And that's the end of our news bulletin at this hour. Thank you very much for watching. Do log on to vtv4.vn for other updates. And for now, goodbye from Hanoi.